All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome back. So, as always, first things first, when you sit down, go and grab out your supplies. Go and jot down the essential question in your notebook. Um, like always, this is going to be your post-assessment. This is going to be your ticket out of the door today. Go and also jot down the objective and the warm-up, please. All right, go and do that. So the essential question for today is it ever okay to break a law if the law itself is unjust? So we're going to be trying to answer that later today. The objective for today, students will be responsible for determining the differences and similarities between MLK and Malcolm X. Now I guess that kind of gives away of who we're going to be talking about today, but we're going to be comparing and contrasting those two civil rights leaders and determining why they were so influential. And then also our warm-up for today, as you're jotting those down, if you'd like to please answer the warm-up. The warm-up is, what is your previous knowledge on MLK and Malcolm X? I want to know what we know about the two individuals. I know we know quite a bit about Malcolm X, or I'm sorry, about Martin Luther King Jr. We've learned about him since grade school, I'm sure, but rarely do students come into my class with a foundational knowledge about Malcolm X. So I'm really looking forward to going into detail about him and kind of talking about him. So can anyone go and answer the warm-up for me, please? Yes, go ahead.
They were both religious leaders?
Yes, absolutely. Now they both were. So to a certain extent, now Malcolm X wasn't necessarily a religious leader in the same aspect that Martin Luther King was. However, both of them, for the two of them, religious played a very important role, not only in their upbringing, but how they viewed society and how they felt that their actions should be portrayed. So we'll talk about that eventually, but fantastic. That's a really good start. All right, so for today, here's what we got. I'm going to pass out two readings for you. One is going to be on Martin Luther King Jr., and the other one's going to be on Malcolm X. Now, your job is to read the two readings. Remember, as always, when we're reading a document, I need you to please make sure you have a highlighter out or a pen or pencil. And I need to make sure that we're highlighting important information, something that jumps out to you that might be a bullet point that you're writing down later. I also need to make sure that you are boxing. Remember, we're boxing key terms. So that's key terms, key dates, as well as places as well. And then I need you to make sure, one of the most important ones, please make sure you're circling any terms that you do not understand so you can make sure and ask those. All right, so we're going to be reading those two, or you're going to be reading those by yourselves individually. I'm going to be coming around to help any of you out. If you have any questions, say on a specific term or a specific passage, we can kind of go over that. Eventually, though, once we're done reading, you're going to get a Venn diagram. Do you remember what a Venn diagram is? Yes? Wonderful. Fantastic. Now, we're going to be using this Venn diagram to compare and contrast the two leaders. So we're going to be looking at their similarities and as well as their difference. So what makes them unique and what makes them both very similar to one another. So we'll see a few trends as we're going through them. Eventually, once we're done reading and once we're going over the Venn diagram, I'm going to ask you to go and share with me what you put. We're eventually going to have a discussion. Now this discussion is going to be open discussion, very similar to like a Socratic seminar. But the purpose of this discussion is to determine which civil rights leader you might have sided with. If you are leaning towards Martin Luther King Jr. and his ways of protesting and going about his message, or Malcolm X's message. And you'll see that they're both similar. They're going about it in different ways, but their message and their meaning is somewhat similar. Some might argue that it's different, and eventually we'll be able to begin to understand what I'm talking about. But first things first, once you're done, go and jot that down. Remember, essential question, objective for today, and the warm-up. And once we're done answering all those, we're writing down those three, I'll go and get two volunteers to pass out our reading, and we can get started on that. All right, fantastic.